I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
And we are about to do a song review for A Perfect Circle. And that is in the primetime spot. By the way, APC just did an album. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah, I've talked to you about it before. It's called Eat the Elephant.
Oh, I didn't actually remember you talking about it, but I did remember seeing one of our friends on Facebook say that they showed it to their husband, and I read you the post.
Right. So
I did hear about it.
Red Serna Alaravon is the name. If I butchered your name, I'm very, very sorry. This is for you, and you know why. By the way, it's my birthday today. Did you know that?
Of course I did.
It's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Get it? See what I did there, Red Serna? Okay, so this is the Hollow. This is obvious. It's APC. It's Tool. It's Maynard. It's not Tool. It's Maynard. But definitely a primetime band. Stay tuned because we do have a underground band coming later on in the day. But okay, so this is the Hollow. I believe this is actually their first single off of that album. Yeah, okay. I thought Judith was the first single, but I think this was the first single actually. Now that I think about it. And I've never really looked at the lyrics of this song ever. So I'm actually pretty excited. Okay, so
you have never heard the song either?
I've heard the song,
okay.
But never done the lyrics. Never looked at the lyrics at all. But the melodies in the song are beautiful, and I love melody. And here we go. She requested the live version, so that's what we're doing. Hopefully, Red Serna is female because.
Well, we were split because you were saying she and I wrote he when I wrote the request down.
So there you are.
Let us know.
All right, and we're off.
Desire run, sexual being, running like a blade, chewing through the hollow conscience. One model, cater to the hollow, screaming, feed me.
That's what it's saying.
Fill me up again. Dominoes of indiscretions down, falling all around in circles, constantly consuming, conquer and devour, screaming, feed me, fill me up again,
saying scream in fear. He's saying scream and feed me here.
Cause it's time to bring the fire down. Run all this indiscretion. Long enough to identify.
This is so song. Yeah, it's amazing to me is how you start singing when you never heard the song before. Have
Well,
you
you
heard
can
the
just
song?
feel it. No, you can just feel it though, and you know where it's going.
That's such a good song. Okay, what do you got?
Well, what did I get out of the song?
Yeah.
I have no clue what it's really about, but what I got out of the song was that it's this person that is trying to run from their sexual desires because they control them. But they're saying
They control their sexual
no,
desire.
their sexual desire controls them, and so they're trying to run from it. But screaming, "Feed me here, fill me up again," temporarily pacify this hungering, because like sexual desire becomes so strong, but then like it's temporarily pacified when you fulfill it, but then it comes up again. So, yeah. But that's what I got from it. What did you get from it?
It's interesting because it's sexual desire, lust, or whatever is sort of like extracted from the person and then becomes this person in itself that then is going after this person, and he's trying to control desire, but he can't. You know, so desire is running away, and then it talks about his libido. Where did it go?
Right there, libido throw.
So grow, libido, throw, dominoes of indiscretions. The way that he organized the rhythm in the verse is insane. Like, so it melts, like the chorus melts like back into the verse. So temporary pacifying the song. So grow, libido, throw, dominoes of indiscretions. That's pretty crazy. But yeah, but like desire itself is like this thing that's plaguing him. You know, that's why he says like,
makes sense.
Long enough to edify and permanently fill this hollow. So the name of the song is The Hollow, and it's talking about the hollowness that everybody feels and the mysterious act of sex that temporarily fills that. But then obviously the more you do it, the more you want it, and then it doesn't work. It's interesting. We were just listening to the Vermilion song, right? Where he kidnaps a girl, whatever, from my crazy interpretation, right? And at the end of the song, he's saying, "I won't let this build up inside of me," because he's already done what he's done with the girl. But then at the end, you see that she didn't do it for him, and so he's stuck again with, "I won't let this build up inside of me," which is interesting because in the bridge he says, "Bring the fire down, bridle all this indiscretion, long enough to edify and permanently fill this hollow." So he knows what needs to happen.
Yeah.
You know, bring the fire down. It's sort of like this judgment language, you know. And God throws down fire from the heavens and then bridle the indiscretion. Like this, you know, phantom lust, like arrest him, lock him up long enough to edify. And edify just means like to strengthen something, to build something up, and permanently fill the hollow. Like that's the goal. But then the song ends with the temporariness of pacifying the hunger.
Right.
You know,
because
so
he can't, because the fire isn't going to fill that. The judgment doesn't fill that. Because, like, there's been times where I've done things that I knew I shouldn't do this. But then I do it anyway, even though I know that there's judgment for that sort of action or whatever. But it's still, that doesn't stop you sometimes from doing what you want to do. Just, you know?
Yeah, it's a very interesting dichotomy about human nature where, you know, you have, if you bring the fire down and that'll stop it. So you do these like extreme things where you judge yourself, maybe even you condemn yourself. But it's not, that doesn't stop bad behavior.
No.
At all. Or even behavior that you perceive as bad, which of course, as a rock star, especially this guy, good night. I mean, the availability of instances of temporarily, you know, filling the hollow with sexuality, I'm sure, is legion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you almost feel sorry for him in the situation, in the sense of, you know, but all of us have to deal with this, you know, in one way or another. But and I've heard so many, you know, there's a lot of songs in rock and roll, you know, it's sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? And so these songs kind of like show the dark side of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You know, where we saw Lamb of God, 11th Hour is about again, personifying drugs as a woman is very
Right.
interesting. And here, now, this is the dark side, because now this phantom lust is out there. And it's interesting, it's no conscience, one motive, cater to the hollow, right?
Yep.
So I think this was like him at the beginning, where like you think, that's the thing about any sort of like addiction or out of control desire. Initially, you're the one that's consuming, but then you become consumed
Right.
with whatever
By it.
you are consuming.
Yeah.
And so initially, he's got no conscience. He's got one motive when he's dealing with this girl, and
It's
boom,
cater
I'm
to
going
the
to cater
hollow.
to the
Yep.
hollow. Which, of course, on the one hand, when you're looking at the subject, you're like, okay, he is doing that, right? But then conversely, what's going on with the groupie or with the whoever?
Well, probably the song, like with the song we did yesterday.
Vermilion.
Yeah. No.
Oh, Ginger, the
Yeah.
Ginger song.
How she was feeling, like on the table.
Oh, yeah, butchered by handsome butchers or something
By
like
hands.
that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. On the table by hands.
Yeah,
or something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah. So
that's right. So yesterday we did it from the perspective
of
of
a woman.
of a woman who is, clear-eyed in, engaging in these relationships that are kind of shallow, but at the end she feels like she's being butchered and
Right.
scaled. And then on the other side, you got the guy now who is
Yeah.
indulging in it. And
But
they're-
in both instances, both of them are coming down to the emptiness of it in and of itself. Like, sex is obviously not empty, but it is if it's the only thing.
yeah, that's a very, very interesting point. And it's crazy because he characterizes himself as having no conscience.
But he does have a conscience. That's why he's saying, because it's time to bring the fire down.
Right. But when he's in that space of constantly consuming, conquer, and devour, that is crazy.
You know what's... Oh, go ahead.
No, go.
Well, because he's saying, because it's time to bring the fire down and bridle all this indiscretion long enough to edify and permanently fill this hollow. You know how, like, when there's something that you desire and something that you keep going to, even though you know it's wrong or bad for you, and then you think, if they would, because he says bridle it, like hold it back, like just put a bridle, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like that's how you control the horse, is by the bit and the bridle and stuff. And he's saying, if we could just, that's what he needs, like some sort of control mechanism. But in the Bible, it talks about, it's not a control mechanism, it's like a changing from the inside out that actually makes it. It's not about bridling yourself somehow and finding these things that are going to constrict it and keep you from doing the things that you know are not actually fulfilling you in the end, but that it's something beyond that.
I think that that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions about the Bible or Christianity.
Yeah, because people always think it's about a bunch of laws.
Right.
A bunch of bridles.
Following a bunch of rules.
Yeah.
Or like killing
Do's and
your desires, and
Uh-huh.
It's not about killing your desires. It's just about getting new desires.
Right.
Because you look at Jonathan Edwards, right? So Jonathan Edwards' theory was that, and John Piper too, was that anything that you desire the most in a given moment is what you're going to act on, generally speaking, as a human being. So, for example, if we're in an ice cream shop, and you're a 6-year-old, what they desire most in that moment is the ice cream. They're going to take the ice cream. I talk about that experiment with the kids, and you put
marshmallow.
you put one marshmallow there, and you say, okay,
Yeah.
Hey, if
You can have this
can
marshmallow.
have this marshmallow, but if you wait 5 minutes, I'll give you a bag of marshmallows. And
You Google it. It's kind of funny to watch them.
and so the kid's desire at that moment was instantaneous fulfillment.
Some of them hold out for a little
Some
bit,
of
and then
them
they
do.
can't they
And
can't
Jordan,
handle it.
Jordan Peterson talks about sacrifice as simply a bargain with the future.
Right.
So so you combine those philosophies, right? Like whatever your primary desire is in the moment, you're gonna do it. So if your prime desire is to make a bargain with the future, then you're gonna sacrifice in the present. But if it's not, then you're gonna be in this situation, right?
Yep.
And so the biblical idea is to have something that's deeper to fill the hollow, because there's Ecclesiastes. So there's a guy in the Bible that basically said, I had as many women as I wanted.
He was a king.
Yeah, he was a king, right? So he's like, I had many, and he talked about music. He talked about musicianship. So he basically said, look, I did the sex, drugs, rock and roll thing.
Right.
And he's kind of at the end of his life, and he's reflecting backwards. And, he just says, this is the end of the matter. What is it, like fear God and whatever. Fear God and obey him or something like that. I don't know. But fear God, by the way, doesn't mean like be afraid of God. It just means that you recognize God as the filling of your hollowness or whatever. Not I haven't gotten there. I don't know. Maybe you've gotten there.
I'm working.
But this is a beautiful song to me. Just lyrically, melodically, I love the way that he. This is a hypnotic song. The way that he did the lyrics, it's almost the way that he presented the song was the seductive way that lust was operating in the song itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like I said,
really, I don't know.
Go ahead.
Because you just described it as like hypnotic and stuff, but I don't feel like what he's describing is something that's hypnotic. I feel like it's something that's chasing him down.
Constantly
Run,
consuming.
desire, run, sexual being, run him like a blade to and through the heart. Like it to me doesn't sound like you're just being lured into this thing. It seems like it's a real.
Yeah.
I don't think it's hypnotic, so I disagree with you, Ben.
Well, yeah, no, I think in principle lust operates hypnotically, but I agree.
Yes.
I mean, here lust as a phantom is extremely aggressive, constantly consuming, conquer, and devour. That's a crazy line.
When it says run him like a blade to and through the heart, is that talking about what the sexual desire ends up doing to him? Or
I think it's what he does
to the person?
To the person.
It's weird because
he knows that when he basically does what he's going to do with the other person, and that he has no other motive for this person other than to, please himself sexually. So he knows that he's going to run through this girl's heart and break her heart. But the problem is he's being controlled. Run, desire, run. He's being commanded, by his lust. So he gets, I think it's kind of like a double as well, to run through her, run her through, right? So the act itself, but then the aftermath of the act is
that it was like a blade through the heart.
So
when it says run, desire, run, sexual being, run him like a blade, you think the run him like a blade is like he himself is like a blade running like that? Like, is that why it says run him?
He is being used by his sexual proclivities.
It's running him. It's ruling him.
Ruling him
like a okay.
It's ruling him. So then he has no control of himself at this point. Which is
wow. Which
is again a brilliant assertion of the human experience.
Yep.
And you definitely, Paul talks about it in Romans, where you're a slave to your desires. Mm-hmm. Right, and this is one of the major.
Isn't that why? Like, isn't it Buddhism where they say like you try to get rid of all desire,
cessation of all desire? Right. And so this is something that the humanity, whatever your moral compass is, we've all of us know that being that the drive of desire is so strong in us, and so a lot of religions and philosophies have tried to figure out how do we handle this. So Buddhism or certain aspects of Buddhism say just end all of your desires.
Yeah.
And then if you get to the point, because the root of all suffering is in desire. So if you get to the Buddhist would say, if there's any Buddhists, correct me here. A Buddhist would say, see? It's his desire here. Look at all this carnage. So if he were to end all his desire, then he wouldn't have a problem, right? Mm-hmm. And then the hedonists came around and said, well, it's true that the desire is causing suffering, but the reason it's causing suffering is because he's so conflicted within himself. He should just go full bore into it.
Oh my gosh.
So that's where you get all the orgies and all that stuff that happened in the Roman Empire, because people were just saying, let's eat as much as we can, drink as much as we can.
Hedonism, something about like making yourself happy? It has the word happy or something?
Yeah, hedonism is like you go to the extreme of your desire. So a hedonist would say the root of the cause of suffering within desire is the fact that you're holding it back. So they would say,
the struggle, when you're actually trying to fight it,
right? So they would
like
say
a big struggle.
Yeah,
yep.
They would say go full bore. You know what I mean? Go full bore into it, and then that will end your suffering, because then you'll be able to experience it. Of course, what he's talking about though is he responds to the hedonist by saying, "Well, I've gone full bore, and the aftermath is I feel hollow."
Right. Right.
This has nothing to do with, I'm sure Maynard isn't really caught up with, religious, underpinnings of Judeo-Christian thought when he's doing this. Well, it's something about the human experience that when you do that with a bunch of women, you feel hollow at the end.
And that's what the King Solomon came to. At first, he was like pursuing after all that stuff, but you hear him. He starts saying everything's vanity, everything. He starts getting to those points where he feels like everything is worthless.
Yeah, and of course, a fake Christian, or I'll just say the popular Christian. I didn't say fake Christian. I shouldn't do that, but let's practice some self-awareness here. The Christian understanding that we project to the world, that we think Christianity is to pretend like you don't have these out of control desires and act like you're this like this holy person. And so the way that you deal with the guilt and the hollowness that he's feeling is not to make a song about it and be honest, but to judge other people for
right. Yeah, it's
for
true.
their crowd. Oh, you look at you. Whoa. Which is honestly like the worst of the three. Now, I'm thinking about it.
you Christians should just write more songs.
Yeah, just write more. Well, I really believe that. Like, think about it. The guy with the worst one of the worst self-control issues in the Bible was also the rock star, David,
true,
right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So there's a guy, he wrote a bunch of music, played guitar, played harp, and he wrote
And
pretty much.
He wrote like.
He wrote the soundtrack.
Nasty,
He wrote the soundtrack to the Bible, but he was dealing with the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally the same thing. It's crazy. So yeah. So there's the evangelical pop Christian answer, which is you absolutely relate to this song, but you're not gonna say that out there.
Right.
So you're just gonna start judging people. When you judge the Buddhist guy, you judge the hedonist guy, and you judge poor Maynard. You're the worst one in the bunch. Allahu Akbar.
Oh my God.
We are Christians. Believe
We are.
me.
Yeah.
I'm big on self-awareness, and that's kind of where we are. Like, this is one of the ultimate questions. How do we carry it to the hollow? So I think the right answer is not to deny it, but not to indulge it, but to find a deeper desire that can fill you up when you go to it, instead of take from you as you take from other people. So there you go.
Not only just fill you up, but so you're actually able to give to other people. Yeah, instead of going around
instead of
taking from everybody and running.
Yeah, but I think in both in this situation, in the Ginger situation, they're still taking. They're still taking from each other.
Oh yeah, I agree.
The groupie's taking something from him.
I agree. She's not going there for it because
she's not going for his awesome personality.
Right.
Maynard. Yeah, anyway, I'm not gonna get into that. Okay, all right. What do you rate this song?
Ooh, I'm gonna give it a 9. Actually,
This is a 9.5. This is a 10 for me.
Whoa!
I grew up with this song. I never took the time to know the lyrics because the melodies are so entrancing to me. But this is a 10 for me. This is another one. This is like a Judith level song because I think we should probably put this all in the same playlist. Like, so the Vermilion 1 and 2. We're gonna do a Slipknot song called Purity, and then this, because I'm very fascinated with how relationships and work and all the rest of it, and I think having a katina of songs like this is going to be important. So this is a 10 for me. Mm-hmm. It's a 9 for you?
9, yeah. I was going to say 9.5, but 9. I'm going to go with 9.
All right. Well, happy birthday to me.
To you.
I didn't say Vin out. Vin out.
Sorry out. Okay.